Hello, my dear, and welcome to our 5 minutes with Ekaterina vlog about the Dnipro, central Ukraine. And today I would like to talk a little bit about the article written by General Zaluzhny and published in The Economist. It has two parts. The one part is the journalist interpretation of the original article, which is also there in PDF, and it is obviously recommended to read both. But there are a lot of things in the article explaining why the counteroffensive failed, and General Zaluzhny says that some counteroffensive totally failed, and he blames a lot the technological advance or lack of the technological advance in the warfare. But also he says that the general way of thinking was that after Russian population will suffer a lot of loss, in terms of human loss at the front line, they will just stop fighting. The desire of the average simple Russian people would not be to continue war, which has never happened. General Zaluzhny says that at least 150,000 Russian soldiers were killed. The official data says it's about 300,000, and it didn't make any difference towards the normal Russian minds, and they never changed their attitude towards the war. That means that we need to remember it's not Putin's war against Ukraine, it's Russia's war against Ukraine, and still somewhere between 70 and 80% of the population do support the war. That's something to remember, and that's something that was misinterpreted not only by myself. If you remember me, a few, even a year ago, actually, as it was almost 2 years now, the full-scale war, and the war itself, it's almost 10 years now, and during the first 8 years I was thinking that Russians just don't know what's happening on Donbass, and they just are not aware that they don't have any rights to Crimea. And then when the full-scale invasion started, I was thinking that Russians don't know what's happening, and simple Russians, like normal Russians, they would just go to protests, go to meetings, and that will be just, the war will be stopped. And I was surprised that after a year and a half, General Zaluzhny had the same expectations, that after this huge, heavy human loss, after all these storms, when they just sent infantry to be killed by tanks or by automatic weapons, after all this Russian population would stop the war, but they don't. So it is Russian war against Ukrainians, and Russians, average Russians do support it, and this miscalculation cost us a lot. And also the things, there are a lot of technological things, a lot of technical things, what can be done to achieve the victory, and all these mistakes, they're pretty much detailed there. And I'm not an expert to comment on this, it's just my takeaway of the main points that struck me a lot. But the thing that is relating to Dnipro itself, it's in this journalist interpretation of the article, says that now Russians developed S-400 missiles that are able to reach the city of Dnipro. And that is terrible news, because for me, the safety in this war, in this situation, was being pretty far from the front line, and this pretty far distance for me, it was if the city can be reached by S-300 missiles. Because S-300, 300 is the distance, but it's not the factual distance, it's the land-air distance, and these missiles, if they're close to you, it's they can range about 100 kilometers, so their range is within 100 kilometers, 80 kilometers is their perfect range, when they actually can make a lot of damage. And when they are on this distance to the city, your infrastructure is pretty damaged. It's very dangerous, because they will shell you all the time. They do it to Kherson now, they do it to Kharkiv now, because they just stay on their side of Russian border, and they shell Kharkiv still. They shell Sumy, which is not on media that much, but they do it constantly again, staying on Russian territory. And they did a lot of damage to Mykolaiv this way. So any city that in this range of 80 kilometers is in danger. And now, when they developed these missiles, they started this development about 10 years ago as well. But this article claims that they started to deploy it which means that now it's not 80 to 100 kilometers danger, now it is 100 to 200 kilometers danger actually. And Dnipro is in this zone which can be reached by this S-400 missiles. My hope is that it's a wishful thinking, probably that's not true. My hope is that there wouldn't be enough of these rockets because it is relatively new development and they do use European components. Please, if you are into sanctions or if you have any ideas how to enforce sanctions, we do need to enforce sanctions because they're not working very well. There are European components in these new Russian rockets. So basically, I'm hoping that it will be harder to get these components and there would be less of these rockets. As 300, they're from the Soviet times and they have unlimited stock of them. And as 400, they do need to produce. But still, it's a very depressing news, especially having on the background the situation when we are actually bombed a lot and the sirens are more frequent now and Ukraine enters the winter season. Obviously, Russians would try to just replicate the previous year, trying to damage the infrastructure, damage the electricity heating as much as possible. So that's something that worried me a lot. And other things that is happening, the front line is not stable. And I was listening to an expert saying that it's not even close to be stabilized towards this autumn. So likely the campaign will continue into autumn and maybe into winter. And in Avdiivka, the situation is very dangerous. The Russians want to capture it, want to capture it badly, and they give like they lose so many people, but they don't care. They just send new people, send new people, send new people. So it's terrible what's happening there. We also have some advances in Bakhmut region, in Kherson region, which is uplifting, but this is instability of the front, and we don't know actually how this campaign, autumn to winter campaign, is going to develop. So that's the update. That's something I wanted to share, like according to what's going on. Otherwise, the situation in Dnipro, in terms of water, in terms of food, in terms of like basic necessities, it's the same and it's stable, thankfully. And the front line is still far enough, but not that far because Russians are starting to develop new weapons. That's the update. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying with us. Please continue supporting Ukraine. Just talk to your friends about it. Don't forget about the problem. And this war is dangerous not only to Ukraine but to other European countries because Russia is the country that is aggressive and would not stop in Ukraine. Thank you for watching and I hope to see you very soon. Goodbye for now.